Okay, make a note that Dave Micus is absent. You all know that Dustin had a serious accident and he's dealing with fallout from that tonight. So our prayers are with Dustin. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need a motion to approve and adopt the agenda.
Second. Who's the second? There.
No, I got
Oh,
it.
sorry.
That's okay.
I heard them both.
I heard Beth, but she's closer. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? I heard 6-0. The next item on the agenda is our MSBA board review. Can you play that, please?
Welcome to the September edition of the Missouri School Boards Association's Board Report. We begin with a look at the release of this year's state assessment data. The preliminary results released by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education show overall statewide scores are mixed when compared to the prior year. ELA showed small improvements in elementary grades and in high school, and small declines or flattening in middle school. Mathematics scores showed increases in most grades and courses. Science scores maintained with the exception of an increase in biology. Regarding the results, Commissioner of Education Margie Van Dieven said the data emphasizes the need to continue deploying state and local resources to best support and promote student learning.
If we're going to embrace literacy, let's do it all the way, right? And this, we know what we need to do there. Let's focus on that. Let's focus on early learning. Let's keep focusing on great teachers in every classroom, growing our principals to support those teachers, making sure we have superintendents who are hiring good principals to support the teachers, training our local school board members. These are things that I think we have all agreed are primary to making sure we move the needle.
With schools across the state back in session, don't forget to share the excitement of students, staff, and the entire public school community with your local legislators. Invite your legislators to celebrate the return to school with a day touring your school district. MSBA President Ruth Johnson says that activities such as legislator visits are just part of year-round advocacy efforts.
I truly believe that advocacy begins with relationships. That is something that I began my first year of being on my local board, and it's vitally important that you reach out and get connected with your elected officials at your city level, your county level, your state level, and federal level even. Beginning those relationships before you need to have those hard discussions is what's crucial.
In addition to building relationships with legislators, building relationships and networking with peers is a great way for school board members to learn various approaches to common challenges. With that in mind, MSBA's fall regional meetings are back. Fall meetings return in each of MSBA's 17 regions this September and October. These events give local board members the opportunity to learn and network with colleagues from their part of the state. Sign up for your region's meetings and come ready to play. MSBA's Leadership Development Team has created an engaging and educational challenge where members will team up and work together to answer school board scenarios. To find the date and location of your region's meeting, visit the MSBA website. And it's not too late to register for the 2023 MSBA Annual Conference in cooperation with the Missouri Association of School Administrators and the Missouri Association of School Business Officials. The conference will be held November 2nd through the 4th in Kansas City. The event will once again feature numerous breakout sessions and workshops, many presented by school leaders from districts throughout the state, along with a great lineup of general session speakers. The conference will also feature the Education Expo, the Student Showcase, and much more. Visit the MSBA website for more information. That's it for this month. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and we'll see you in October for the next MSBA board report. As we wrap up, here are some closing thoughts specifically for board members from MSBA President Ruth Johnson as we start a new school year.
I would just say to other local board members, enjoy what you do. This is a journey that will change you, and you will see public education in a completely different way. You will see that students are truly what matters most. And everything that we do as a board member should revolve around, is what we're doing, is what we're deciding, making it better for students to learn every day.
Anybody want to add anything to the board report? Heidi, did we learn something the other day?
We did learn something the other day.
You want to share?
The one thing we learned?
Yeah.
No, so we, Austin, Mary and I, and Dr. Berger attended the spring regional meeting that was over at Warrenton this year, and they did test us, and we do have some time on the board, and we're all on separate teams. Yes, and we did learn something. We've always known that in closed session, if you aren't here, you have to see your face to be able to vote. Well, there was a question that did you have to see your face to be able to have a discussion, and it turns out no, you do not. So you can be part of the discussion over, phone, but if you want to be a part of the vote, you have to be face.
So in the past, when a board member hasn't been here and we haven't been able to see their face, we basically just hung up the phone on them.
Yeah.
And but now we're going to change our practice that says that person can hang around and listen and participate in the conversation, but as long as we have to be able to see their face via Zoom or something before they can vote. So that was something that I did not know, and that's something I learned also. So it was worthwhile.
It was interesting. Yeah.
It was interesting.
There was good discussion too. So.
Anything, Mary?
I'll tell you what I learned. I learned always be prepared, because you never know, when you walk in, you might have to run the whole meeting.
That is right. That is right.
Yeah, the guy who was supposed to do it was ill, and they said, Mary, you're next. So I got to be the spokesperson that night.
Anyway, next item on the agenda is high school presentation. Matt, I'm assuming you're running this tonight?
We have a couple of awards that we usually present. First off, we'll start with our volunteer award. Our volunteer award is going to a 2009 graduate of Wright City High School. She was a member of the dance team at that time, and I hadn't been at Wright City very long, and I came here and I was like, they've got a top-notch dance team here, right? Like, it was really the best, and then it kind of faded for a while, and Coach Dugan brought it back. And Ronnie Edwards started helping out with the team, and I've watched their progress and watched them get better over the last 3 years, to the point where they're kind of winning some awards again. She's been a big part of that. It's great to see her be able to share her passion for dance with our current students, members of the dance team. So the September 2023 Outstanding Volunteer Award goes to Veronica Edwards. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it. And we also have our Distinguished Alumni Award. This is the third year now. I think we do it twice a year at our board meetings. And this fall's Distinguished Alumni is Pam Hombach. She is a 1981 graduate from Wright City High School. She attended the Wright City School District, K-12. She started as a paraprofessional at the high school in 2009 and as a teacher in 2012. So 11 years teaching, 15 working at the high school and as a district employee. Pam is married to her husband Jeff and has a son named Jonathan. She also has a daughter Alana, who, along with son-in-law James Baker, both work for Wright City R2. And they have two children, Lawson and Lainey, that Pam spends a lot of time doting on. Lainey Lou, right? Pam teaches the work experience classes for us at Wright City High School. She leads a group of students in running the Brew and Gold Wildcat Cafe, our coffee shop there. Come by Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, before 7:30 probably. It's not open on Wednesdays. Get you a coffee if you want to sometime. She also takes a group of students to Agape in Warrenton to gain work experience skills. And she was also instrumental in helping set up the summer work program for some of our students with the ambulance district. And also along with that summer work experience is a program funded by Missouri Vocational Rehab. It is a 6-week paid internship where high school students the summer before their junior and senior year get the opportunity to work in the community. Area businesses open the doors to allow these students to work. The program is free of charge to the business partners, the schools, and the parents. Each student works a maximum of 20 hours per week and will receive minimum wage. Some of the businesses that have participated: the Warren County Ambulance District, St. Charles County Ambulance District, Woods Fort Golf Course, McAllister's, St. Charles County Library, Distribution Management, Boulevard Senior Living, Schnucks, YMCA of St. Charles, City of St. Peters, and Embassy Suites. So we're proud of the contribution she makes to our students in the classroom and beyond as well. We want to just thank Pam again for all her service to Wright City High School and the Wright City R2 district over the years. This award goes to a true Wildcat through and through. Congratulations, Pam Hombach, on being our Fall 2023. Next, I almost forgot, we have our sponsor for Education Rising. It was FTA, Future Teachers of America. It's going to be Ed Rising, Ms. Pohl, and to our officers. We're going to talk a little bit about that program, which definitely aligns closely to the CSIP goals of staff recruitment and retention. Hopefully these folks will someday come back to Wright City and be teachers for us. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Pohl at this time.
Hi everyone, we're going to awkwardly stand in the front real quick to present some of the students. Yeah, you do too. So like Mr. Brooks said, my name is Ms. Pohl. I am the government teacher at the high school, and these are two of my officers. I'm going to actually let them do most of the talking for the first half, and I'm just going to stand here next to them for emotional support. So Ms. Thompson, I am ready whenever you are to get this show on the road.
Alrighty, my name is Veda Bullenbach. I am a junior and I'm the president of Educators Rising.
I'm Zane, VP of Communications.
Alright, we have grown in membership with 10 active members to approximately 20. We have been one full academic year going on a second. We transitioned from FTA, Future Teachers of America, to Educators Rising.
This has provided us a lot more opportunities, leadership conferences, state competition, national competition, National Honor Society, and micro credentials.
Alrighty, so some events that we've accomplished, every month we pick 2 teachers and we just do like a little teacher highlight, just to, kind of recognize some people that, we think just really help our school out. And then we did some stuff during finals week because we understand for everybody finals can be incredibly stressful. So for the teachers, we made some little baskets and just something to help like lift the mood up. And we have our teacher appreciation week. It's something like everybody really looks forward to for sure. Like we get to make little baskets and like go door to door delivering stuff because I think teaching can be stressful. I can only imagine. So that really helps. And we help team up with Stuco for our TMEs, which is like our teacher recognition awards at the end of the year, which is always another great time.
For the programs we have planned this academic year is our Teacher of the Month highlights, service events with the Girls and Boys Club, storybook reading to elementary students, and partnering with the high school ELL department and students, teacher school supply drive, October 11th, which is the leadership conference as UMSL, and then the teacher appreciation week.
So we have grown quite a bit, as these two have said. It's been honestly an honor being in our second full academic year. Like they mentioned, transitioning from Future Teachers of America to Educators Rising. We are officially now considered a CTSO, which is a career and technical student organization, which provides all of our members and future students with a lot more opportunities. This is now internationally and nationally recognized. So while FTA was just focused on Missouri, unfortunately it kind of hindered some opportunities that students could have. So this is now an opportunity where we can work with other states and even some colleges that might be international if we so choose. We are definitely following in the immense growth following other CTSOs the high school has, such as HOSA, FBLA, and FFA. They're the three biggest CTSOs we have at the high school, and they continue to grow. And I want to follow in their footsteps as a sponsor to give my members those same opportunities. Some of our bigger goals is to eventually become a CTE, a lot of jargon I'm throwing at you, which is a career and technical education program. So currently we're an organization, so we meet after schools every other Thursday. The goal eventually is for us to become a class. So the goal is that I'm stumbling over my words. I get more nervous talking in front of adults and students. The goal is that it become a class for sophomores, and then it would then be a pathway for our Four Rivers students. Four Rivers, who we already work with at the high school level, they have an educator program. And the goal is to get these sophomores in, get them some exposure, and then transition that to get them even more opportunities. So that would be the hopeful program with CTE. That is something that is in the farther future, but something for as long as I'm in the district, I hope to kind of pursue. Definitely a lot of what we do now is following those CSIP goals for teacher retainment and recruitment. I was on that committee, so I helped plan a lot of those goals. So I definitely know, kind of now being Educators Rising, what we want to go for with our members and for our district growth. And I also applied to the Missouri Grow Your Own grant for 10 grant. So Dr. Wade, the previous 2 years when our organization first started, he was gracious enough to apply to the grant for me. This year I put on my big girl pants and do it myself. So hopefully in around October I will hear the news on that, but 10 grand would be an awesome way for us to start and continue to grow. Any questions, concerns, clarifications?
That sounds awesome.
Yes, thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Another year, right? Good seeing you.
Okay, we have one person on public comments, school updates, and modular. Frank, I'm assuming you can get both those done in your...
I'm going to try to jam it all in.
Jam it all in. Have fun.
So I had to shoehorn this one in a little bit because it's not exactly an agenda item, but it touches on one. So a little over a year ago, you guys all drafted and signed a letter, voted for it to be sent to the Warren County Commissioners in support of the new meatpacking facility owned by American Foods. Paragraph in that reads, the Wright City R2 School District shares our community's excitement about the prospect of 1,300 new jobs and potential investment of $450 million into the region. That capital investment and the tax revenues it will produce will provide the resources the district needs to accommodate the growth and impact on our new schools. Good news, they're spending $800 million instead of the $450. Bad news is the county is going to value it in the 400 range. But the really bad news is they're going to get an 80% tax abatement on that. It's going to cost this district $82 million over 20 years. When you average that out, that's $1.3 million per year. Based on the statistics from the research firm that you hired to determine student growth, that will not even cover educating the students that plant is going to probably bring into our district. I can tell by the looks on their faces, nobody seems to know that this
occurred. Seems to have been flying underneath the radar. A lot of people didn't know about it. I was at the meeting. I was expecting to see people from our district there. I was hoping that perhaps like Winsville, we would have representatives from our district negotiating this, because an 80% discount for the first 4 years and 75 for the remaining is not a good deal. Furthermore, I heard in the side conversation when I was there that there were indeed 2 people that are present in this room, I will not name their names, that were strongly supportive of this measure when nobody else seemed to know about what it is. If I was this board, I would investigate, I would determine who was involved with that and why they didn't let anybody here know, so that this could not be open for discussion, so you guys couldn't figure out a path forward, or perhaps assign somebody to negotiate a little bit better deal on this with the county. Ultimately, it's not up to you. The county can do as they wish, but again, without anybody telling them otherwise, they did what they did. As far as the modular, $166,000, this is going to be really quick. That's a trailer that's going to depreciate 90% the second they put that thing in. Winsville School District has some trailers at Heritage Elementary. They originally tried to get $25,000 out of them. They're now down to $2,500 a piece. You guys could buy one of those, fix it up, save a whole lot of money, and it's just going to be temporary anyways. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, new business, Wright City High School East Edition updates. Who's going first?
I'll go first. East. Okay, so not a lot has changed. I don't know if anyone's been out there. They've done a few things. They've done a few things to finish up some stuff. They put some of the copings on and the downspouts. You can go to the first picture. This is a picture of the downspouts last month. They weren't there, but these are the gutters and downspouts for the new addition. Then they have been working on getting everything materially there to finish the job. Next slide. So part of the ceiling tiles are in. The rest of the ceiling tiles will go in as soon as the electric is up and running. And the good news is that the electric panel is being shipped. It's on a truck heading this way. So they'll finish the ceiling tiles. Next slide. Flooring is there. Oh, it's the bathroom. Next slide. Flooring is there, ready to be installed once the HVAC system's powered up and running. And no work will follow after the flooring is in. All set to be done in the next 3 or 4 weeks. And I know there was a date set, but I wasn't in the meeting, so I can't tell you exactly what it was, but 16 is the goal. And I think
October, November. 16 October or 16?
Yeah, and I believe that the panel's supposed to be here next week.
Is that when kids are in the classroom, or is that when they can start moving forward?
They can start setting up the furniture and everything. It shouldn't take long because it's all there. Furniture's in the building.
Yeah.
When you say the panel will be here?
I was told it was going to be next week. Jeremy says it might be here tomorrow.
Yeah, it
in
should,
the United States.
Yeah, it shipped last Friday. They're anticipating it to be on site tomorrow. And if that's the case, then electricians are going to be on site on Monday. They were saying 5 days to get that installed, 2 or 3 days after that for HVAC to get up and running. Once we stabilize the air, then 2 or 3 days for flooring. Then millwork comes in about October 2nd. We are going to do a punch list we have another meeting coming up on the 4th, and then we have a punch list on the 9th, and then right now we're planning to occupy that space on the 16th.
Where did it ship from on Friday?
I don't know where it's shipped from.
I thought it was West Coast.
Okay. I would expect it to be here if it shipped on Friday. It's Thursday now. If it's coming from Mexico or something, I just want to confirm it's through customs.
Yeah, I don't think it was out of country.
When do we believe we'll have kids in the classroom?
October 16th. It's a Monday.
No, kids in there?
October 16th.
Oh, okay. He just said.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was.
No.
I know Eric said that.
New
I
furniture,
said
yeah.
yes.
Okay, okay.
great pictures. Any other questions on it?
And what did we do with the students and the teachers who were going to be in those 4 classrooms? Where are they right now?
So the good news is we had 2 of our teachers were already in classrooms. Those are classrooms that weren't being utilized. And then the other 2, like we did last year, our old computer lab room and then our art room. So we were able to business as usual.
Yes.
All right.
And Bobby and Eric may be kind of tag teaming this next one for the change order, and that Bobby's going to do our presentation. Welcome, Bobby.
Yeah, thanks for having me. All right, so the new Wright City High School. I think we met 3 weeks ago, maybe 4. A lot of progress has been made since our last meeting. Continue on with grading and excavation. So the key with the grading is the culvert is now open for through traffic, basically. So all the grading of the football field, we're able to take those spoils across the culvert, get those spread out, and business as usual, like you just said. Site utilities are kind of paused until we get to a certain point on the east side of the campus. Once we get far enough, that utility work will resume. But everything on the west side of the campus is done for all practical purposes. Site concrete continues. So I believe we had just poured the north entrance and that drive to the last section of the parking lot last time we met. They're prepping for the south pour. They'll do the same thing on the south side next week. We did pour some slab on grade this week inside the building. So the admin area, what we call Area A, both wings of that, to each side of the clear story, that was poured out earlier this week. And then tomorrow they're actually pouring the second pour, about 20,000 square feet in Area B, what we call Little B. Underground MEP work continues right now. I know you guys aren't familiar with the building, so I'll try to elaborate on that. But underground MEP work, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, is going on the west side of the building, what we call Area E, which is just north of just south of the gym. So that work's moving forward. Masonry is going about as well as it possibly could. We've got, on average, 18 to 25 masons or masonry crew. That makes up the laborers as well, but there's a lot of activity. Box culvert installation, so again, the installation's complete. Open to the point where we can have through traffic anyway. Fencing's ongoing. They're basically chasing the retaining wall activity. So everything along fast lane on the north side of the property, that work's moving forward. As far as we can go with the retaining wall, the fence is chasing right behind it. So that work's ongoing. Next slide, please. Looking forward, it's a lot of more of the same. Some changes within that, we're going to start setting trusses in Area A this week. I say that we get a delivery tomorrow, they're going to start setting those on Monday. So we're working on clips and prepping for that setup for Monday. Steel erection's ongoing, so they've been working in the storm shelter, getting the clips prepared. They're getting ready to start doing the joists. Same time the trusses are going next week, 2 different subcontractors, but as joists are getting set in the storm shelter, trusses will begin set up in the admin area. Roof sheathing. Long and short is, as the trusses go, Wright Construction will put these 2x4 sleepers down. We put roof sheathing on top of that, fire-rated sheathing, and then quickly behind that, then we get roofing membrane. So the idea there is to keep progressing our way from west to east across the building pad. And then interior slab on grade continues. So, really between now and the middle of November, we'll have about 80% of that slab on grade completed, which will be critical to getting trades out of the mud as winter conditions roll around and keep productivity high. Next slide, please. Just some ongoing photos. So the concrete on the right, that's the north entrance I just spoke about. And then this is some of the curb formwork. They use a curb and gutter machine that they set up and then follow that line all the way across. Next slide, please. So these are the tilt-up panels. So these are all vertical now. This is the panels as they were formed on casting slabs. Casting slabs have since been broke up and are no longer there. They're basically just sacrificial pieces of concrete for the slabs to these panels to be made on. Next slide, please. Here's panels during the erection process. All these panels are set. Between each of these joists, they've got weld connections. We call them stitch joints. They keep those racked. On the inside of that, I don't know if we have any pictures of that or not on these slides. They've got these Yeah, these braces, if you walked in there now, there's, crisscross of these braces all over the place. Eventually, as the joist gets set in, all those obviously will get removed. That's what it looks like currently. Next slide, please. This is retaining wall, the retaining wall along the north property line. Fast lane can be seen over on the right-hand photo there. Let's come together. Masonry is ongoing, so a lot of what we're looking at here, you've got the storm shelter off in the back, and then what we have instructed them to do, our masonry contractor, is we're getting to bearing height everywhere we can, but where we can't, where they can't set up, we're getting everything above the grade so we can go after and pour slab on grade, and like I said, get the concrete down as quickly as possible. And then obviously everything below that's your electrical and gas lines and plumbing. That all gets prepped now. Next slide, please. Box culvert prep in place, so this was the beginning stages of it. It's a pretty neat process. You guys could probably see the crane from the highway as you drove by or as you went down Boca Road. They had these precast boxes made that had been sitting on site for quite a long time, I believe since February. We're finally able to get that work done. Both Karen Brock and Kolb, our two contractors working on the site, that's earthwork contractor, utility contractor, they really came together and they were able to knock this out in about 3 days as far as getting it to the point that we could pass over. So we're trying to pick up time lost during that bad study timeline. Next photo, please. Here's a better look of the masonry work. This is area B right here. It's just at the back side of the admin area, and as you look up towards the front, I believe that's the clear span there. Like I said, just a lot of activities. You're looking at a lot of rebar that goes inside the masonry walls, all the underground plumbing rough, and then obviously the block coming out of the ground. Here's the site fencing along the north property line. And here's a aerial shot. Here's the big crane I was talking about. Next slide, please. And that's what it looked like as of Friday, about a week and a half ago. This is the storm shelter, obviously erected, big massive structure. It's about 32 foot, I believe, in elevation from finished floor to top of it. It's amazing to think that it's only about half the site, not even half the site in that photo. So, any questions from the board? Or?
Aaron?
I do not, thank you.
Kyle?
I know last month we briefly discussed the breaker box or massive breaker box for the high school too. I think you said tracking January. I know it's mid-September now, but is that still on track? Have we gotten any signs yet of any potential delay there?
We've not heard of potential delays. So right now it's on track for January 24. We're hearing rumblings that the market's somewhat correcting itself, and we could possibly improve on that, but right now we're here in January.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you also.
Stay safe.
You too.
Oh, wait a minute, don't.
I knew that was coming.
No, the next time on the agenda is the change order.
Yeah, it's part of this agenda.
Yeah, so the change order, so just hang tight.
Sure, you got it.
So sorry about that.
No problem.
So go ahead.
Summary. No, I was just going to see if the board had any questions on that. I know we fielded several when the change order was sent to you, so. Are there
You
any
just want to give everybody a quick overview of the change orders?
I'll ask these guys too, they'll be better at it than I.
Just give us a quick
Sure.
summary of the change orders.
Yeah, so long and short of it, it's about a $40,000 ad, but this one change order encompasses, I believe, 4 PCOs. PCO stands for potential change order. So with that, the first part of this is some door hardware changes that were, so a couple doors in the admin area, it's just changing hardware types, increased some hardware costs. PCO 34, this is the crane remobilization. This was due to the timeline of the bat study. So the company, Cold Grading, that ultimately did the box culvert, initially they had their crane. They left their crane on site for as long as they could. It was there 2-3 months. Unfortunately, they needed to bring that crane to another state. Wasn't able to get back in time to do this work, so they had to hire a Simon Crane to come out and provide a crane for them. That's what this cost is. It's the $8,000 or thereabouts for that crane. TCO 35, this is for additional trusses in area G. So it came back after the calculations were done by the structural engineers that the spacing needed to shorten between the truss widths. So instead of being 4 foot apart or so, they became 2 foot or 16 inches. I forget the dimensions now, but they had to shorten the gap, the spacing between those trusses. That was a combination of additional work on the cold form metal framing side for the trusses, but it was also a credit back for some masonry that got reduced. And then on the last part of this is PCO 36, is for IT rack changes. Again, it was just after going through and doing the design of the electrical work feeding into this, there was parts of the head unit that required a different setup, different pieces to make that functional. So that's what that part is. But collectively, I believe it was $39,777 is the overall change amount. Collectively, if you compare this to what, the 3 previous change orders, ultimately you guys are still cheaper than it was on bid day by 6 figures. So collectively, you're still winning, if that makes you feel better. Any questions?
So I think on the door, I think when I asked Chris that question, it was something about security or something like that to make the building more secure?
Yeah, I'll defer that to Eric and Bond, but I believe it's for the A-phone.
So yeah, there's several sets of doors going out the front of the building, the main entrance. We had set up one as kind of the exit and entry, and tracking whether those doors were open or not on the security system. There was discussions with security and IT that we wanted to put all 4 sets on that, and that was the added change in hardware to put all those doors out the front of the building on the same controls and system for tracking if the door's ajar or just open or held open too long, so that you guys have the ability to someone in the building can know that.
Bottom line is it's a student safety issue.
Yes, it increases the safety on the building.
Thank you.
And then the question I asked regarding the resizing of the trusses, the explanation on why it wasn't captured during the architectural design phase, totally understand. Do we anticipate those instances popping up frequently in the future, or are we pretty confident with the design as is?
You do your time.
I don't anticipate anything else, because the main like delegated design things are the canopy, which we've taken care of, trusses, sprinkler system, and retaining wall. Those are the main 4 that are in that kind of category of. So no, I don't think there's anything else that would come up.
Sprinkler systems get pretty expensive, so hopefully that's smooth sailing when we get to that point.
Yeah.
As far as the trusses go, this is an area G, and we've worked our way kind of from again, working west to east. This is the only area truss-wise that we've identified any concerns. So hopefully that remains the case.
Right.
Anybody else have any questions? So you're advocating for the approval of change order 4?
Yes, yeah, recommending, yeah, definitely.
Okay, any more questions before we have a motion to approve change order number 4? I need that motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I heard 6-0.
Mr. Jones, may I also thank Wright Construction for having the admin team out in central office today. So we actually did a walking tour of it, and there was some talk about trying to get the board out there to do the same thing. So I'll get with you and we'll try to coordinate maybe before next month's board meeting or something, briefly walk it and lob some questions. And,
Sure. I'm off work October 2nd.
October 2nd.
That's a Monday.
Oh,
Ooh, me too.
why is that October? What is that? That's not the board meeting.
No, I just took a day of vacation.
Oh. You too? Or you too?
You can stay there all day.
You don't want me there all day.
Thank you. Love to have them all.
We thank Keaton today personally, but he did a nice job. So even though we did discover he doesn't have a teacher voice. But,
Okay, next time on the agenda is the A+ annual report. I know some stuff was passed out. I asked some questions on the A+ report. I imagine this is why it got passed out. So, anyway, Dr. Berger, you want to take over?
I'm going to introduce Mr. Brooks. You want me to run that check out?
So I have both our
Jump in there,
counselors
run it
here.
out.
I didn't know that Ms. Summer was going to be here. She was the coordinator. Ms. Payton has taken that role on last year. Obviously, and then I was coordinator before that. And there were questions, I know, on the level of performance and where that is, and that it's been consistently 30s to 40. We almost got to 50% on one of those years, you can see. And was asked to find out some more information. We did a little bit of that research too. I can tell you about 4 or 5 emo conference schools reached out to me, and they were running the ones that responded, which does make me wonder the ones that didn't, what their numbers were, but between 40 and 45% is where those numbers were. 2 GAC schools that we had talked to were around 25%. So it led me, on one of my thoughts on that there's an economy of scale with A+ scores too, that the more students you have in the building, the lower your percentage is probably going to be overall, just on the evidence that I've found so far.
That would be an inverse relationship. The more
Right.
students, less participation.
Yeah. Right. But I mean, because I think that number, as your students increase, it's harder to maximize the number that are going to be there. I think the smaller your enrollment, the more likely to get a higher percentage, from what I've seen as far as that goes. Some other things that we could kind of mention here too, the fact that we did lose a few kids because of the math requirement that DESE put back in January. I know there were probably a few kids that maybe counted on that, so maybe they didn't take the ACT again. Maybe they didn't think about taking their EOC again. So there were, was it 12?
Yeah.
12 students I wish that decision would have been made at the beginning of the year. I think it's a little bit tough to do that in January to kids when they've done it the last 2 years, to bring that back online. So that was a factor in those results a little bit too. And one that, that we hadn't been thinking of as much, and I definitely hadn't thought of it. Bo Evans brought it up to me, Mr. Smith brought it up to me today. The fact that we have so many students now that are doing early college. And once they do that and they've got those credits, they don't necessarily need A+. It decentralizes that quite a bit. And I know there were, what's our number of kids there that were still?
20, we got 20 who have taken college.
20. So those are kids that are very capable and would have gotten A+ too. So that, I don't know that our whole number, is off as much as we might think since we have started doing more early college for kids. And I mentioned in my response, Austin, also on that I think it's important to note that we want to look closely at our alignment to the pathways, right? We had 38% of the class of 2025, which is the first class that's on the pathways, that were in the college preparatory. I would think that we'll see, a similar number. Now, we will have some kids that are in universal that will get A+. But we're also going to lose some of those pathway kids probably from early college. So I think that percentage is something we're looking at. And I know you've got some data maybe that you want to share.
Yeah. So I have a handout I'll pass out. Ms. Summer and I sat down today based on your questions, and we scoured through our exit surveys from last year and the data that we collected from our senior meetings. So looking at the entire cohort from last year, and that's what you'll see on the top graph, only 83 students total out of the 116 were eligible for A+ based on GPA. That's a hard line, nothing we can do with that. Unweighted GPA, correct.
Well, it says 71.6 on the thing here.
That's the percent. So 83 total students out of 116 who graduated.
Okay.
Wow. So yeah, 71.6 graduated, and they were A+ eligible based on GPA. Not that they were A+ eligible altogether, because we didn't factor in the math score there or attendance. So when you look farther down at the bottom, based off of that, we had 39 total who graduated A+ eligible. And then we had 34 based off of our exit survey and the meetings that we had with seniors who had definitive other plans, and they chose not to pursue A+. So that would be, they were attending a four-year university, they had decided to attend a trade school, cosmetology school was up there as well, and we're not seeking A+ for that. Entering straight into the military or entering straight into the workforce based off of those results. So what we really wanted to focus on moving forward in the data that we collect for next school year is that orange section, those post-secondary undecided. Those are the students that we feel like we need to close the gap on. And that was a total of 9 students. I do apologize when I collected that data, when I realized my numbers were not matching up and it was driving me crazy today. There's one student who populated on this list who transferred out. So they actually transferred to Mexico. I was wondering why my numbers weren't matching up. Yeah. So we had 9 students undecided.
So, go ahead.
Can you define undecided again, please?
Undecided meaning A, they did not possibly did not complete their exit survey that we sent out to students. We reminded them several times to fill out. We sit down one-on-one. They chose not to complete that exit survey. Or when meeting one-on-one with them, they did not have plans. They might have been working somewhere local. They were kind of dabbling in, maybe I'm going to go here, maybe I'm going to go here, but they had no definitive plans at graduation.
And then the students that did not meet A+, the A+ metrics are participating in the program, but went to college are included in the other plans, correct?
Correct. So several of our four-year students, several of our students who were with SCC, for one reason or another, they didn't complete tutoring hours. They did not pursue their ACT. They said, this is where I'm going. These are the scholarships I already have in place, and I know that I don't need to take the time away to do this program.
Yeah, my issue with the ACT requirement is that more and more institutions are moving away from it being a hard requirement because they have learned that an ACT score isn't as well an indicator of success in college and graduation rate as what they thought, especially in the early 2000s and 90s. So that's obviously a state requirement. We can't change it. But I would be more interested in the amount of kids that have a 2.5 or higher that aren't meeting that math EOC requirement.
Well, the ACT isn't actually a requirement
Oh, it's
for
not?
A+.
No, okay.
It is used as an alternate way to earn A+. So if the student does not score proficient or advanced on the EOC, that gives them an avenue to earn it.
Okay,
So for the student who scores basic or below basic, we can then suggest, first we can either retake the algebra EOC, see if we can get that score to where it needs to be, or the combination of an ACT math sub-score plus their GPA. So I think the bottom rank is like a 14.
3.7 is like
if
a
they get
15
certain on them.
ACT on their math.
So they use that rubric, so it gives them an avenue to get it. But we have students, we have students that are going to a four-year university that is test optional. They don't need the ACT. They already have their scholarships. They know they're going there, and maybe they didn't perform on the EOC, but they're not really concerned about the A+ because they have that plan in place. So that was a few of the students.
So something else, that I would want to touch on here. When those students that were seniors last year were freshmen, our math instruction, and this is on me, right, was not at the level that it is now. It's improved quite a bit. So there were maybe some kids that their math instruction wasn't at the level that it needed to be for them to do well on the EOC or on the ACT, the sliding scale. The other thing, on the sliding scale that I want to be a little bit leery of here too, is that as that drops down, if you've got a 3.0, you only need a 15 there. I don't know where that stands in comparison to passing an Algebra 1 EOC, but I don't want to have grade inflation be a factor taken in so that they could get it, and then aren't prepared for the rigors of college even if they got the qualification. So that's kind of the other thing.
Core tenet of evidence-based, right?
Yeah.
What we're trying to get away from.
Right.
One of the things I do want to just point out on that report, and I think you can see it on their page 3 of the report there, what they're trying to do. There were 48 students who fell into that category that they were eligible and would have or could have sought this. 39 of those got A+ for well over 80%. So I think of the kids who were in that range or in that grouping who and didn't decline it and were eligible, of those 48, 39 of them actually got A+, and to me, over 80% of those kids is a pretty significant and good number.
So I was talking to a student the other day, and the student indicated that she, I don't want to give it away, was going to gap it, meaning they said they want to take a year off and try to go back. Now, with that student who's gapping it, would they still be eligible for A+?
You have up to 4 years to use your A+.
4 years to use your A+. Also, another note is that qualifying ACT score. So any students who did not meet A+ eligibility due to their math score, I reached out to students and families, sent letters home in the spring. They had, I believe, 5 months to take that ACT again, receive a qualifying score, submit it to their college. And we did have one student who did that over the summer.
Yeah, they have a part of that freshman year to get that made up still too.
I mean, to me, I think this is just something that our kids need to take advantage of if they're, and we need to prepare them to take advantage of it. And because, I mean, post-secondary education is expensive enough, and whatever we can do to help them. And plus, if they're doing a career readiness, I think you can use some of that for career readiness.
So, I mean, technical schools, obviously, like State Tech, you can apply it there.
Yeah. And so, that would be something where, we need to drive some of that. If individuals need some post-secondary education for a career technical, that would be a good place to drive.
Thank you. I was just gonna say, having a student in a high school, I do feel like I've gotten a lot of information on A+ and the benefits of it. I know my students have gotten a lot of information on it, so I think part of it is also educating community, and that's probably on us to educate community on having, maybe you think your kid's gonna go to a 4-year college and that doesn't pan out, but why take away a tool in their toolbox? So I do feel like there's been a lot of communication from the school on the benefits of A+. I think part of it is just like we've seen in trades and everything, when 4-year, and then parents might not have as much, sorry, my voice has been doing this for a couple weeks, might not have as much push to make sure that their kids are enrolled in this program, because I know where my nephew is going. He's going to a 4-year school, and they give an A+ scholarship as well. So I think part of that might be parental education, and I know that the high school has hosted nights and information for parents. So I just want to be cautious, and while I think there's always ways to improve, I do think that the high school has done a great job of educating kids on the program and the benefits of it.
Those 4-year institutions, a lot of those are partial, it might be $1,500, $2,500.
But it's a
And I know, you've heard me say this in this presentation before, we would still encourage a lot of those kids, well, I'm going out of state, I'm going here, I'm going there, to get it anyway. But, you can lead a horse to water sometimes, but,
I didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was in high school, I'm going to a 4-year university. I have all the scholarships in the world. Guess what? I hated it, and I went to Scott, and I could have used it for a year.
I've seen those kids come back, and the ones that didn't do it regret not taking them in. We tried, but I can't force them to sign the paperwork or.
But finding that orange group,
Yeah.
if you have 4 years, you learn a lot in 4 years.
So I have a great example. I have a sister at the high school currently, and she is a senior. Okay, she is on my caseload. My sister is falling in that percentage of students with other plans and will not do A+, no matter how many times I have educated her. And I told her, I know you want to go straight into the workforce. I know you want to do this. Have this in your back pocket. It's good for 4 years. Do this. And she looks me straight in the face and says, A, I'm not taking that ACT, and B, I don't need that. So just an example there of some of those conversations, and I feel like I can share that one. But
Two of my 3 kids. 2 of my 3 kids. I'm a counselor, and I'm telling them, you have this GPA and this and this and this, and they did not choose to do that. So it's hard, you know, when you get to young adults who, especially battling with their parents of they know what's best for themselves, and that gets challenging. So we encourage even those going to college, because Lindenwood usually offers something, you know, we have all those things. And we always give the examples of sometimes plans change and you shift gears, and this is good for 4 years, so it's good to have a backup plan.
But I think even that orange area, I just want to reiterate, is not, I don't think that is because we aren't, and our people aren't doing their best to make sure that our kids are aware of this and know what it's about. I mean, I know from sitting with these ladies that they go and talk to every single kid about this and try to encourage them. So sometimes, you know, people just don't follow through on those things. But I think when you get over 80% of the kids who are in that area who are capable and do it, I think that's a success.
Do we offer any math tutoring for kids? If that's their hang up on this, do we offer like after school tutoring opportunities?
We do.
Okay. Yeah, and then for the tutoring requirement, and I see that up to 25% that can be job shadowing. On the tutoring, who are they tutoring? Is that younger high school students?
Yeah, it could be high school, elementary, or middle school.
Oh, okay.
I work very best if they're able to build it into their schedule. It's built into their schedule as a class period. I try to fill some high needs areas of the high school first and keep them so they're not losing with travel time, losing hours. I have students placed at West. I have students placed at Middle. It's a little bit harder to get them to East and back.
We usually don't do that in the schedule because you're going to lose 20 minutes in drive time.
And students
But
go
we
after
do,
school.
yes, and some of our college kids that are still doing E+, they go to East, you know, because they can do that
Right.
later in the day. Yeah.
The summer school.
Summer school is an option.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lots of options there.
You make it easy for them.
We try to.
We try.
This is so easy to do.
Connecting all the dots.
Anything else? Okay, moving on. Annual Secretary Board Report, FY23. Dr. Berger.
I'm going to try to do that from my seat. Look over here at this board, if you need a point of reference. Elizabeth will shoot this up here. So the ASBR FD5 Annual Secretary Board Report is not the final nail in the coffin of the fiscal year, but it's getting close. So we'll hear a report before the turn of the calendar year from the auditors that should nearly perfectly match up with our ASBR, which is due to DESE August 15th. So we've got this tuned up. Next slide, please.
August 15th?
Yes, it was due August 15th, and then we had the auditors come in and do some field work, and we continue. It's not due and it's finalized, we have to have it submitted, but you can still take on edits and changes. So that's just us and what I just said. Also, the professional organizations and DESE, of course, use this information. It can be found pretty easily. I always put in the previous year there just for a point of reference. So we closed out 22, and I'll talk a little more on the next slide, but the big things that you will remember are, you look at that operational reserves. So that is going to be your total expenditures divided by your revenues to that 33%. And then Fund 4, under, if I'm looking in those columns, general, incidental fund, and special revenue fund, that's considered operational funds. Debt service, that's our general obligation bonds. And then Fund 4, capital projects. You'll see up at the top of the column it says 40 cents. That particular year in FY22, we levied 40 cents in there due to ESSER dollars. If you go down to where I've got the circle, you see that $46 million. We know that's greatly inflated because we sold general obligation bonds, and so that money's sitting there waiting for pay applications from Wright Construction, actually technically from Bond, but to pay out for the project. So going here to FY23, same format, nearly the same. This is just a screenshot of it, I guess. But kind of orientate you to this just a little bit further. You'll see up there at the top, it shows your adjusted and unadjusted levies. So that's, if we look at just about any school district in the state, you could not look at that and think, well, that's, go back 5 or 7 years and see that consistent, because you'll remember that ESSER dollars came in to play, And typically what districts did was they supplanted that. They took that whatever amount of money into operations, and then if they needed more money in Fund 4, in this case in FY23, they levied 70 cents in Fund 4, where normally that 70 cents or part of that 70 cents would be over in operations. Typically just levied in Fund 1, that general incidental fund. The question that's kind of common that comes up is, if you're not levying any dollars, and if you're not have any levy in your special revenue fund, your teacher's fund, and that's what you pay teacher pay and benefits out of, how do you pay that out? How did you get $12 million on nearly $13 million of expenditures? You do that because you transfer, but also there are state funds that revenue directly in there, but it is supported by local funds as well. So then to look at FY23, when I first published this, and these aren't published publicly to everybody yet on DESE, they will be in the next 30, 60 days. We had 36% reserves, and that's relatively high, but you're going to see that across the board for all districts because they took this ESSER plan and tried to build balances in whether it be in operations or Fund 4. You look over there again at that $43 million that's sitting in Fund 4. We know that's inflated, again, because of the general obligation bonds. So to kind of break that down into the next slide, if you look at our unrestricted amount of money, when I first published this to the board, I showed our growth in Fund 4, which is a very intentional, strategic effort because we knew what was coming. We knew that we needed to potentially help subsidize projects by having some money in Fund 4. And so we grew that in a relatively short amount of time from less than $1 million to what I first published is $6 million. And that takes all the general obligation bonds and takes them out. So that's our, I'm going to tell you first, unrestricted money, but we worked through a little bit of a curveball by our auditors this week. So we actually have $2 million more of that is restricted, and it's the AFG donation. And so they looked at that agreement and they declared that restricted, and that's restricted to the athletic facilities, which is pretty clear in the agreement. So not a big problem, but we were a little surprised by that. So technically there's $2 million of that, or the balance of $2 million. We spent a little bit out of that for the scoreboard and the design of the entryway that AFG also had called out in the agreement for the donation. So the newest information, though, and next slide please, is that we had the auditors on site actually here doing their field work. We went back and said, hey, well, our reserves are relatively high, higher than what we necessarily want to keep them at, and we have really done all the transfers that Veronica and I were familiar with, and even really been talking to KPM, we want to get more money into Fund 4. So we asked if there was anything else we could do. And I knew this was an allowance, I just thought it was a lot harder to do through DESE, but the auditor that was on site, or two, said that, yeah, we could go back into previous years, and if there were any opportunities in the last 5 years that we didn't maximize transfers, we could do that. And I said, okay, what kind of workload is that? It's a lot, but they were actually, Veronica and the auditors were able to do that this week. And if this was approved, we'll be able to transfer another $1.8 million from operations to Fund 4 to bring our balances to $8 million in Fund 4. And I'm strongly recommending this because this is where we need the money. Now that $8 million does include the $2 million that is restricted, not traditionally restricted, but restricted by the AFG agreement, but would bring our balances to approximately $8 million over there. What would that do to our reserves? That would drop our reserves still to 28%, which is very strong still. So I'm recommending this motion and get the money where we most need it. I'll remind the board that if you were ever in a financial crisis and you did not you didn't spend your Fund 4 money after you get to 3% reserves, it used to be 10%. Now it's financially stressed as at 3%, you can do unlimited transfers 4-to-1. So in the worst case scenario, you still can get to the money. We don't foresee that in the foreseeable future for us.
And what'd you say the transfer would drop to unrestricted?
28%. And give me a little latitude on that. It's going to be in the ballpark of that after they do all the work. We'll see if we, But you will have this verified fact when the auditors come in, and I think we've had them zoom in more recently, but when they present the audit, if not presented as an artifact, I'll put the summary page of the ASBR back in there, and we'll, it'll be in the ballpark of that $8 million, in the ballpark of that 28% reserves. And when I say ballpark, 1% either way, I mean, it's right around there. It's not going to be off that. I don't think it's going to be that much, but.
Any questions? So basically, we're going back up to 5 years and redoing some numbers and moving some money from Fund 1 to Fund 4.
That's right.
So we have money for additional capital projects.
That's correct.
I make a motion to approve that move.
Okay, so do me a favor. Your motion is to approve amending prior year's ASBRs to maximize Fund 4 balances for facility needs.
That is my motion.
Okay. Second. There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? I heard 6-0. Anything else on the ASBR that you need to tell us about?
No, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is a modular proposal. Dr. Berger.
Wade.
Dr. Wade.
Let him start, and I'll provide the color if needed.
So last month when we were talking about the pre-K grant that Kelly was going for, we started having talks with Kurt Daniels, Dr. Berger, and myself, Kelly, Brian. We went outside to look at the site. There's going to be some site work that needs to be done for something like this. And so one of the most important things is coming up with all the goodies, electric, sewer, water, fiber, all that. So we kind of thought about the northeastern corner, the back of early childhood, to put this modular unit at. More discussion we had with Kelly about, hey, what were her needs? This structure has to have 2 classrooms, and you can see in here bathrooms, 2 sets of bathrooms, drinking fountains, things like that. We did look at the timeline, because if you remember Dr. Berger talking last month, this grant that we were trying to get and then we ended up getting, we want to try to be operational by January. Right now, for modular classrooms like this, it's taken about 4 or 5 months to get one here. And so that's why we kind of hurried up and tried to put this on this month so we didn't have to wait another month. We also reached out to Ed Plus in the meantime. Ed Plus is an organization that we use here in town. They have a cooperating bid process, and so I reached out to Steve Griggs to see if we had anything like this, and he said that I was one of 10 school districts that's contacted him about this, and that they don't have this because it's hard to go apples to apples on something like this. So then I looked at Sourcewell. If you remember, a few years ago, we went out to our playgrounds at East and West. We went through that cooperating purchase group, Sourcewell, that we're a member of. And so in the meantime, I got some other quotes, just talking to other modular companies, and Box Modular is the one that won the quote through Sourcewell. They won that quote in December of 2022. As you can see on here, this is what we're proposing. The 64 by 24 structure, 2 classrooms, 2 sets of bathrooms, 2 drinking fountains. This cost is for delivery, installing, piering it, making it stable, skirting it, also bringing in the stairs and the ADA ramp to go with it as well. The cost is $171,418, and that's what we're proposing tonight. Questions?
We'll get. We're going to start with you and work our way down.
Okay,
So, go.
great. So how much, this is early childhood, how much is, of this is reimbursable?
We believe 50 a classroom.
It's $50,000 a classroom, and it's not early childhood special education money, because that's all we've talked for years at Wright City in terms of 100% reimbursement to the expenditures out of that. This is out of a separate grant. I'm just clarifying.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd just be a one-time grant for the classrooms at $50,000, or well, 2 classrooms,
So
$100,000.
$100,000 worth of grant to cover.
Yeah.
And I just want to mention that we did look at purchasing versus leasing. And so when we looked at that, really it makes sense if we're going to keep the structure for a year or 2 possibly to lease. It's better financially for us as a district. But once you go past the 2 years, it does not make sense financially to lease it.
And would the grant still cover a lease?
Does.
It does. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. No, it does not.
Okay.
It does not, no.
That makes a little more sense.
Anything else, Aaron?
No, thank you.
Kyle?
I know there's questions on this, but I apologize. We explored new versus used.
Yes, so we did look at used, especially with one of the other companies that we checked out. When we looked at it, there wasn't a huge price difference for it. A lot of their costs and some of the, how they try to get you, it reminds me of a used car. It's delivery costs, setup costs, takeaway costs, those kind of things. So in the long run, it wasn't something that was worth going after. And it's hard to find what we want. I mean, we do have some trailers that they had that we could use. They weren't 2 classrooms. Some of them weren't set up as classrooms right now, more kind of like construction trailers. So there would be some. And then one of the things I saw.
Dr. Way, you meant modular classroom, right?
Modular, oh yeah, what did it say?
Yeah, that word.
You used the T word.
Oh, I'm sorry. Modular structure, how about that? Yeah. And then there is, when you go used, one of the things that Steve told me was, you know, there's different, it is like a new build in a lot of ways, and so you have to be up to code and stuff. And so if we get a, I was going to say trailer again, if we get a modular structure from another state, another area, something that's older, it doesn't mean that it's up to code to put kids into it. And so we want to make sure we have that correct as well.
Anything else, Kyle?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Heidi?
I don't have any further questions, thank you.
Mary?
I think all mine have been answered too.
Beth?
So Dr. Ray and I chatted briefly about this before the meeting, and I just noticed this today as I was doing kind of a final pass through this afternoon. I think it was added more recently, so I felt like I didn't get to dig into it quite as much as I would like to. So I think part of the reason that we're going with something new, maybe versus something used, is to kind of get exactly what we want and get the aesthetic that we would like to have. Something that looks nice. I know maybe you mentioned maybe adding an awning, something that doesn't even look like a modular unit, maybe with the intention that we would have it over the long term. So not just for these couple of years, but that we would keep it, the district would keep it and maintain it for use over the long term. So it's a long-term investment. Is that right?
Yes, and and we talked earlier about, you know, just the phase 2 of construction, you know, just us getting into the new high school getting into the old high school, getting the new high school, that's going to take some time. Us moving out of here, they're redoing this place, if that's the plans that we have. So, I mean, we're talking a couple years down the line that we're going to have it for sure. And then if we do want to expand, it's just extra classrooms for our kiddos.
Yeah, risk of being just a little bit redundant, but you know, a couple things come to my mind is we are on a tight timeline just to get this thing up and running in January. So, you know, buying something used that we were going to have to, you know, we've got some trades people on staff, but you know, we would probably look to seek to contract that work out. And then, you know, and the conversations I've had with individual board members and my admin team, they know I'm pretty hard to get over the hump on this modular classroom, because there is a reality that we in the industry know that once you get these modulars, it will compete against other priorities in the future. And so I think while our intentions are good in thinking that this thing's going to be here a single number, you know, 3 years or 4 years, I don't think it's impossible to believe that we come out here in 8 or 10 years and it's still there. I mean, there's just going to be competing priorities. So I think that factors into my thinking in terms of, and kind of what you're talking about, Ms. Dean. You know, I committed to Kelly that this would not look like we pulled up a trailer beside her facility. You know, we need to make this thing look really, really good. And you mentioned the cover and awning, fencing and everything, and match the building the very best we can. And we will still have the intention that this is a temporary fix, and I'm going in with that mindset. But I can tell you there's a lot of school districts in the state that thought they had a temporary fix, and they're sitting in 10 to 15-year-old trailers. And so I think we need to come out of the gate, you know, as firm with it as we can. It's subsidized at $100,000 from the grant that we're fortunate to get with Kelly's submitting that, so that's, you know, kind of just some thoughts, I guess.
Anything else?
No.
Couple questions. I'm assuming from an operational perspective, you know, I guess whomever the building admin is over there, we won't have issues with in and out and stuff like that. I remember when Donna was in a modular classroom, there was issue with snow
Her and I
removal.
talked together in that.
Yeah,
yes.
and yeah. And there was issue with snow removal on the stairs, and so I think we'll need to take care of that. And then finally, how many additional employees are we gonna need from over there, you think?
The grant called out 4, right? 2 teachers, 2 aides.
2 paras.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, you know, and to your point about ultimately disposing of this thing, what are the disposal costs in these things typically?
So if we went with a leasing option, I mean, they're talking, one of the groups I talked with is a $10,000 delivery, $33,000 setup, and then about a $9,500 like exiting your property with it at the end.
So we're talking about, you know, and I'm assuming these are 2 modular units put together for one, because it's 64 by 24. So we're looking at $25,000 to ultimately remove from the site, if I had to guess right.
50, yeah.
Okay. So we're looking at 3 to 8 years from now, having another $50,000 to get rid of this thing. Potentially, yeah.
And we don't get the grant money if it's leased, right? Oh,
Yeah.
you're estimating.
I'm
talking about
estimating.
lease, I get it.
Yeah, I'm
sorry.
estimating, so in the
Right
future,
then.
we're gonna have another substantial expense to get rid of it.
Yep.
Possibly.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe a come and get it sign on the side of the, but we'll see.
Gov
We'll keep it
deals.
in good shape.
Gov deals.
Bring a trailer.
All right.
Gov deals.
So, and your recommendation?
Yeah, I'd like to acquire this and let us get to work on this and hopefully get some kids and expand our preschool by January.
On that real quick question, I mean, if we open it in January, are you comfortable that we're going to be able to find teachers?
It'll be a challenge.
January?
But right now,
Kelly.
the certification,
We've got them open, yeah.
the certification
Okay.
for the current position that we would hire tomorrow with a qualified candidate is actually a little harder than special education. This wouldn't require that. But yeah, that's also a challenge that we're very concerned about.
I apologize, I should know this, but are the jobs posted?
Yes.
Okay, they are.
I'm supposed to today, but not shared yet.
Any more questions? Need a motion to approve the box modular proposal as presented.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I heard 6-0. CSIP reports. Does anybody have any questions on the CSIP reports? Let's start with, let me pull them up here, sorry. Any questions on the high school?
I don't have any questions, but I do have an overall comment.
Feel free.
Okay, good.
I see you got your voice back, by the way.
It comes and goes. It's a little awkward. I just wanted to point out that as I was going through these in high school and West and the middle school, formatting was a little bit different, so it took me a minute to read that. But it looks like our special education kiddos are coming in performing higher than they have been in the past. So I just wanted
It's a
to
little
say,
bit, yeah, we saw the high.
yeah, kudos to your department, because that looked like a trend throughout all of our students are coming in more prepared.
Yes, you know, if you remember last year, we did the academic achievement report. Our special education students were above the state average in all areas, as opposed to special education students around the state. So, it's been a big bonus.
And then I just have a question. So it was a couple times in the report where.
Which one?
The high school one.
Thank you.
No, we're still on.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, well, Aaron did it wrong, so I thought I lost control.
I apologize. I know it's a couple times in your report. Are we going to be, I want to confirm, we're creating example EOC questions For?
Talking about related to what we're doing with the heat map?
Yes, I think so.
So we took and we wanted to get, as they prepare questions, those higher DOK questions, we had done 3. We're asking our veterans to do 4, each 2-week period when they come. We want, if they're in an EOC tested area, we want 2 of those questions that come from large percentage questions that were on the EOC test that were lower performing, like under 50%. So the larger the box on that heat map, that example they're going to have on there, the larger the box means there's more questions from that area. And obviously,
or more weight. Yes.
Or more weight, yes,
Yeah,
or more weight.
Yeah.
And ideally, we would like to see that thing like Kelly Green, right? The whole thing, right? And those ones that are lower that we can get leverage out of, that are in kind of the red almost, or deeper orange or lighter orange. If they're hit several times especially, and we didn't perform as well, we want to try to have questions around those standards that they're bringing each time. And then when we get enough touches on those standards, we can track our progress and see if we are improving. We hadn't done it previously. I thought, hopefully, we get some of the low-hanging fruit that hasn't been there. And some of our teachers will tell us, this has been year to year an area, of concern. And there are a few things, though, too. They say, hey, maybe our performance is decent on it, but it is weighted so heavy we can't afford not to miss that, too. We don't want to do it at the expense of our other students, but we want to try to see if we can draw some of these up.
It's our first year doing it across the school.
Yeah, across the high school, with our EOC areas. Because one thing too, we had evaluate, but that's math and English. We do have our Edge Elastics, but I wanted something that's a little more concrete for our other EOC areas, so they could start seeing if they're making gains in some of those.
That is what this results in. Reminds me of certain essay questions that somebody went aside.
No more essay.
Okay, the West report, any questions on that? Special education, kudos to Kelly. MSIP 6 attendance rate.
Yeah, this threw me for a loop on why it has to be so complicated to calculate this.
Don't look at me, look at Doug.
Yeah.
Please. He's the one that we charged to break the code, so.
It looks so bad based on the new way the state requires for it to be calculated.
The good news is it's not a lot of points on the APR, and we're going to aspire to have a positive impact on attendance, but 4 points, 2%?
4 points, but out of the 200, 2% of your total APR is attendance. And yeah, it is an incredibly convoluted system. That's why, in addition to my report with the attendance and enrollment, I wanted to also put in there calculation. And I thank you to Elizabeth, because I couldn't figure out how to even manipulate Infinite Campus to even run the numbers to get it. And Elizabeth was able, but I think it was a labor-intensive process for her to even go through that. So we're going to see if we can't find a more streamlined way to even do that. But when you look at steps 1 through 8, and all of those are incredibly difficult. And I'm looking at the other one, Elizabeth, just the one that just says the MSIP 6 attendance rate. This comes straight from the MSIP 6 comprehensive guide on the calculation of attendance. So if any of you can read through that and parse through that and break that down and explain to me all the mathematical features and reasons for that, I would love to know.
But we are going to get a handle on it. We're confident we are.
But I want to confirm, this is not a accurate percentage of how many kids are showing up to school every single day.
Well, it's a different percentage than what we're used to. And this isn't just here's how many minutes we are offering, and here's how many minutes we had kids in session, and we divide how many minutes we had by how many were possible, and then that's a percent.
It just gives you an 88.
That is not this. So they're trying to do it's kind of a hybridized version of what was in MSIP 5 with the 90/90, because they're taking each individual student with their students' percentage is, and then you generate points per student based on what their percentage is, and you get an overall tally. But no, this is not, this is not just what your ADA is, no.
So would this allow us to identify or categorize the students that are not maintaining those 90% attendance rates and attempting to?
Not this, but we do desegregate the data where we identify those kids. Now, we had a conversation today, and nuts and bolts about the strategy. We want kids in school. There's plenty of research that supports the connection between attendance and success. But when you're talking about the numbers, where do we need to potentially focus to get the points? And that's what will be part of our planning moving forward is developing strategies to get those, to identify. We think this might get an example is when the 90-90 standard. If you had a kid that was chronic absenteeism and they were 50%, let's say, there's no chance of getting those at 99. Did we still try to get those kids to school? Yes, but they weren't focused to gain points. You're never going to get those kids for points. There might be some things that we can focus on that would give us a better shot at getting the points, but I can barely speak to that at this point because we're kind of trying to crack this nut and work on that.
So this was our first attempt at even running that calculation to see what that was even going to give us, or and trying to track it that way. Because like I said previously, we've always just tracked attendance proportionally. And so this is our first attempt to look at how DESE is scoring it for the APR, trying to get a number, and then now that we're starting to get a handle on it, we can start to plan on what we can do. This was just our first go at it.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this? Okay, middle school?
I just had a comment on this one. I had two parents reach out to me. Was it last week that an email went out to middle school parents regarding the evidence-based grading? I think it was last week. And I had two parents reach out who kind of felt like, wow, this is a significant change and we'd like some more communication to understand the new grading system. So I think they were going to reach out to Mrs. Backus with their questions. And maybe this is already in the works, but I thought it might be helpful to put together some sort of a frequently asked questions packet that we can email out to parents just to give them some more information. They were asking questions like, how does this affect GPA and the A+ program and that kind of thing.
Absolutely, we can put something together. Frequently asked questions.
Yeah, I think
put
that
it on
would
our
be really
website.
helpful.
You should have it from our study group.
We should.
We have some
Yes,
can.
yeah, definitely
We've made some of
pull
those
from
efforts in
that.
the past, but we'll reboot it.
Yes.
It's a good call out. Any other questions on the middle school? East. And then finally, the central office attendance and enrollment. Any additional conversation there above and beyond what we did for the MSIP 6 attendance rate? Okay, next item on the agenda. We're not going to go through these individually because we did it last meeting. But does anybody want to pull any particular policy and discuss it further? Okay, and then finally, modified bus routes.
We have to
Oh.
Need to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading.
I'll second.
And don't forget about the recensions.
And the
Roads.
receptions.
Okay, I didn't know, I forgot, sorry, my bad. There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? I heard 6-0. And again, I apologize for doing that. The next one is the adjusted bus routes. Dr. Way, anything you want to add?
No, just last month we talked about how we try to wait the first week or two to see how it's going. This is not really about time on the bus, it's about bodies on the bus, and especially at the middle school, high school level. So we have a two-tier system. We have middle school, high school kids go, and then elementary. This is just an additional route for our middle school, high school routes because of the number of bodies on the bus.
Aaron, any questions?
So this didn't decrease the time of the original
Yeah,
route?
no, yeah, it helps with time
Yeah,
too, but
yeah.
it's really, the reason we did it wasn't
Right.
about the time. Yeah.
Just tell me that it's fine.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Drastically reducing.
No, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the revisions.
Second?
There's a motion and a second to approve the adjusted high school, middle school bus routes for bus routes 13 and 16 for the 23-24. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? I heard 6-0. Does anybody need to pull anything from the consent agenda?
Yes, item G,
Okay, item G is being
on
pulled.
the 19th page of
Okay,
expenditures.
that's fine, we'll get there. And then anything else under employment? Okay, need a motion to approve the consent agenda, sans item G.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second, any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? 6-0. Kyle, there's 3 documents attached on there. Which particular document attached to the item G do we need to look at?
The expenditure report. The long one.
Okay, page 19? Okay, what specifically on page 19 are you questioning?
Payment to my mom. In the case.
Okay,
For an adjustment to peers or whatever.
okay. I need a motion to approve the payment to Linda Case.
So moved. Seconded.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
501. Anything else in the bills you want to question?
No.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the bills sans the Linda Case line item.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I heard 6-0.
Who was my first and second on that one?
Who was the first and second?
I was, and then,
Kyle said that one. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, closed session. In accordance of provisions of section 6, you didn't put my thing in here. 610-021 Advice Statutes of Missouri, the R2 Board of Education will meet in closed session. I'm just remembering. To meet in closed session for 1, legal actions, causes of action, or litigation involving a public government body and confidential or privileged communication between a public governmental body or its representative and its attorneys. 6, scholastic probation, expulsion, or graduation of identified individuals, including records of individual test or examination scores. However, personally identifiable student records maintained by public educational institutions shall be open for inspection by parents, guardian, or other custodian of students under the age of 18 years, and by the parents, guardian, or other custodian and the student if the student is over the age of 18 years. And 14, records which are protected from disclosure by law in accordance with the provision of section 610-021 of the Revised Statutes of Missouri. So, any questions on that? I need a motion to go, I need that motion.
So moved. Seconded.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Roll call starting with Austin. Yes.
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 Okay, I have 7:34.